Okay. Seems like I'm live now. All right, we're going to do a check here. 1, 2, 3. Make sure I'm here. Make sure audio can be heard. All right, we're going to do a check here. 1, 2, 3. Make sure I'm here. Make sure audio can be heard. Okay, what's up, y'all? It's your boy, Dr. Henry. You all know that. Trying to get back in business on here. It's been a minute. I do a lot of video production, some teaching on the side. And so that's that. So I have this TikTok page called All About Barack Obama, and I'm preparing to do a quick video for it. At the same time, I'm testing out some streaming equipment that I use for video production. So I figure I'll use my prep for this All About Barack Obama video as the test for the stream. All right, so that's that. So let me go to my notes. So basically, this TikTok video I'm doing is a response to Trump's recent portrayal of Barack and Michelle Obama as monkeys. And, you know, it's something that kind of blew up and beginning to recede now and recede from the airwaves. However, I think there are some interesting historic and political lessons in that, especially when it comes to the context of the Obama presidency, which is inextricably connected to Trump's ascendancy. And so I'll just go through some of my notes. I won't, should I read the whole thing here? Maybe, maybe not. Let me just get to, excuse me. Let me get to my notes real fast. I'll just walk through my notes, and this is just really for me at this point. If anyone signs on and you become interested in what I'm talking about, feel free to throw up a question or two. I'll probably respond. So it can become a question and answer or conversation. All right, so let me just see what's good here. Let me just go to Restream. Now, can I see the chat here? Why is the frame rate is at 30 frames per second? All right. So let's see what's going on here. All right, I think we're cool. It's at 60 frames per second. That's wild. I definitely didn't mean to do that. Can I see the chat? Is the question that I have. Yes, here. Okay. So let me take this, pull it out. Ooh, that works. I actually want to switch this around. Let me see if that's possible. Can I go back from what I did? I don't know. How do I get rid of this? This is more complicated than I want it to be. I really want to switch something here. Okay, maybe it's down here. This is the tab I need to. Oh, access. All right, reverse views. Okay, cool. There we go. Is this better? Let's get chat open here. I don't know if you can hear the sirens. All right, cool. So basically, the title of this short, I don't know what you want to call it, essay or response. It's called Trump's Racist Post of the Obamas. And I guess I'll just read it because it's like, for me, I get to look at this back, listen to it before I actually do it on TikTok. All right, so Trump's recent depiction of the 44th president and first lady as monkeys calls to mind a major issue that scholars, journalists, and writers detected at the beginning of Obama's presidential campaign. And that issue is American racism. In preparation for his book, The Backlash, Right-Wing Radicals, High-Def Hucksters, and Paranoid Politics, journalist Will Bunch traveled around the United States to learn why a select group of people opposed Trump's 2008 election. Now, this book was published in 2010. The hard copy came out, and then the paperback came out in 2011. That's the one I have. So Will Bunch is talking to people about, hey, what's going on? What are your thoughts about President Barack Obama? Or the nominee, Democratic nominee, President Barack Obama. And so, though many confess frustrations with a devastated economy, bank bailouts, the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, among other matters, Bunch observed that, quote, race shadowed every discussion. So even though there were some legit concerns, people were like, yo, man, the economy is horrible. The Great Recession is happening. We got these wars, family and friends are dying. There's a drain on the morale of the nation. It's like, and it seems like the government is doing more for, corporations, and people on the right was like kind of frustrated with this. But even though they have, they express these objective concerns, somehow race sneaked into the conversation, particularly surrounding the potential or possibility of Barack Obama becoming president at that time, in 2008. Bunch points out that Trump tapped the boiling contempt of the first black president when he seized the opportunity to champion the birther conspiracy that Obama is not an American citizen. So Obama's president, people are like, we don't like this guy. Like, he's black, heritage from Africa, although his mom was white. But they were like, yo, is he even American? Is he even an American citizen? Trump's claim to fame is at this precise moment when he takes that question, owns that question, and champions that question. So, in this way, Trump's political movement in office began in 2011, gaining momentum from the people most triggered by Obama's race. So the people who were really frustrated about Obama, particularly because he was a black man, Trump was like, bingo, those are my peoples. All right. And so what happens is Bunch, Bunch saw that, Trump, and most people don't remember this, Trump was really toying around with running for the 2012 presidential election. And, Bunch is seeing how people are gravitating towards Trump and how much Trump is getting like a lot of momentum. His words are being, pumped through the airwaves as if, he was a major player. And even other political scientists were like, hey, what's going on with this? Something interesting here. And so there was this idea, like, hey, is Trump the kind of guy that could possibly, direct the attention of these people and get them to like push him forward? And Bunch was like, the idea of Trump becoming the leader of the Republican Party who would harness the flaring resentment against the first black president was likely a transient thought. But little did he know, that's just what happened. Historian Thomas Sugrue also observed racism stirring in the American pot early in America's first term, among the right and the left, in fact. In his book, Not Even Past, Barack Obama and the Burden of Race, 2010, Sugrue writes, enduring primaries and general election campaign, explicitly racist campaign literature, rhetoric, and gestures gained widespread media attention. The internet was flooded with racialized caricatures of Obama, arousing the anger of liberal bloggers. For days, the blogosphere was alight with materials like a California Republican Party flyer depicting Obama surrounded by watermelon, fried chicken, and ribs, or a high-level Republican operatives recording of a song entitled Barack the Magic Negro to the tune of Puff the Magic Dragon. All right, this is important because, all right, Bunch, journalist talking to people, and, he's saying, hey, it looked like people are kind of like emphasizing Obama's race, underneath everything else. And historian Thomas Sugrue was like, hey, let's just look at some of the data. Let's look at some of the available data and showing how Obama was depicted, in racist ways. And this is all in the early part of his first term. All right. And so you can kind of get where I'm going. These attestations of racism against Obama are supported by the research of political scientist Michael Tesler and others. So we're going to go to political scientists who's going to look at, the attitudes and the thoughts about, and the, demography of the people who actually vote or, express themselves as American citizens. So Tesler examined race and ethnic related attitudes before and during Obama's presidency. He used data from one of the most consistent and reliable surveys, the American National Election Survey. Check it out. The University of Michigan sponsors that, along with other prominent surveys to understand the role, if any, that racism played in American politics during his 2 terms. Okay. In his book, Most Racial or Post-Racial, Race and Politics in the Obama Era, published in 2016, Tesler discusses his spillover of racialization hypothesis. And based on his data, he concludes that Barack Obama's presidency ushered in a most racial political era where mass politics was more divided by and over race than it had been in modern times. Okay, those are his words. He writes, quote, all our measurements, whether racial resentment, anti-black stereotypes, anti-black affect, or even old-fashioned racist desires for intimate social distance between the races, indicate that President Obama's rise to prominence helped usher in a most racial political era. Now, this is key. All right, so this is Tesler looking back at the attitudes expressed over Obama's 2 terms, and also how people engage politics prior to Obama, to make a comparison to see, hey, is racism playing a larger role now than it did before? And this is kind of, important because a lot of people say, Obama divided the country, and it's like, oh, usually those who say it are on the right, saying that, Obama basically was race baiting and stuff like that. But what the research actually shows is that before Obama could even get in the White House, people were already drawing him in racist ways, calling him racist names, and decrying the notion that a black man would be president. Okay, so what seems to have happened is that, yeah, in a sense, Obama triggered a lot of racists to be a little bit more conspicuous. All right. So Tesla pointed out that Obama's major policies were tied to his race in various ways. So one of the things that he looked for was to see evidence of race becoming a huge influence on people's attitudes towards the politics, the policies. And what he noticed is that, yeah, like if Obama push for a major policy, somehow they're going to make him the object of their discontent rather than the policy alone. And they would pretty much target his race. And obviously, as a researcher, he gives an example, right? So Tesla pointed out that Obama's major policies were tied to his race in various ways. For example, as a rebuke of Obama's American Recovery and Reinvestment Act in 2009, he recalls the New York Post publishing a cartoon strip portraying two police officers with smoking guns and a dead chimpanzee laying on the ground. As one of the officers says, they'll have to find someone else to write the next stimulus bill. Now, the Post was called out. They came out with an excuse because around that time there was some issues with some chimpanzees, I think, having to have needed to have been neutralized because of like some behavior that they did. I don't think they killed somebody or hurt somebody. And they use that as their cover. But be that as it may, it's like, okay, all right, let's look at if this was appropriate was that an appropriate example to express how people feel about the American Recovery Reinvestment Act. Like, come on. Two cops with smoking guns, a dead chimpanzee, and you're talking about a stimulus bill. Are we supposed to just not make that association? Like, how do we read and not make that association? Like, we must be illiterate. Anyway, this is a historical, social science sort of report. So let me just be cool. Is there more? Yes, there's more. In her book, White Rage, The Unspoken Truth of Our Racial Divide, historian Carol Anderson provides another example of racism towards Barack and Michelle Obama before Trump was elected in 2016. Carol Anderson writes, quote, "Then there's Ferguson, Missouri, where the second in command of the police force exchanged a series of emails with his lieutenant and a court official in which one, quote, depicted a Barack Obama as a chimpanzee. Another doubted his ability as a black man to hold a job for 4 years, while a third labeled a photograph of a black tribal gathering, Michelle Obama's high school reunion." Right? This is what was happening, and people, are now saying Obama was divisive. Okay, so as the historical record shows, Trump is simply loyal to the brand of racism that made him popular among Americans who shares his values. And finally, I will end with the reflections of the late Reverend Jesse Jackson, who was fully aware of Trump's racist tactics and spoke out against them. So, Reverend Jesse Jackson said during the summer of 2016, "But I submit to you, when you do the birther movement on the president, which is a dog whistle kind of anti-black, anti-Mexican, the deportation of 15 million people, of families, disruption, anti-Muslim, that kind of rhetoric has helped to seed these clouds of racism that he's talking about." And later that year, Reverend Jackson explained, he has used these lies to mobilize the anti-Martin Luther King, anti-civil rights, anti-Barack's victory forces into a solid force of fear and anger based upon that lie. It was an attempt to take away President Barack Obama's legitimacy. Okay, So I'm going to stop there. The point is, one, with Trump wasn't the first to depict Obama as a chimpanzee. There were others before Trump was even considering to run, at least that time. And it shows how consistent he is. And it shows, obviously what Obama has been endured for such a long time. And particularly on the right. And so, all right, that's it. If you have any questions, if you're interested in any of the books that I referenced, let me know. There are more works that contribute to this theme here. Again, I'm Dr. Son Henry, and I was just sharing what I will be sharing on my All About Barack Obama TikTok page. If you got any questions, let me know. All right. Thanks for listening. Peace out. This is pretty cool. All right. So let me go back, see if this stream is still running. It is still running. And I think I am going to check to see if there's any dialogue first before I sign up. All right. Let me just go here. And let's check the chat just in case. Okay, it looks like the coast is clear. There's nothing going on right now. All right, let's just come here. The coast is clear. All right, bet. Thanks a lot. I'm out, y'all. Let's see. Now, how do I stop this stream? Let me go to my boom page. All right, we out. For real.